Welcome csc200 back to part 3 of our ex9 PHP table exercise that we're working on. And we got our information or data from our query to show up in a table, and now we're just going to format it to look nice. And we're going to use some CSS formatting to do that. You may not be familiar with that, but I'll just go through a couple things that you can do. And we're going to be formatting our table, so we're going to have to target our table. So what that means is we're going to go into our style tags here, and I'm going to hit a return, and it'll be indented, and I'm just going to target my table because I have a table tag. So I'll do table, and I'll do a opening and closing curly brace, and if I do one, it'll do both. So I'll do that, and what I'll do is I'll put in some styles in here that'll help format the table. So some things I'll do first is I'm going to put something called margin left, and I'll just move my table away a little bit from the left side. So I'll say margin left, and this is the way CSS works. And you can use pixels, so I'll throw pixels in here for now. I'll do pixels, and I'll put a semicolon. So just like PHP, you have to put a semicolon after each declaration here. These are called style declarations, and the whole thing is called a declaration block for table. So this is one kind of style declaration. So margin left, and if I just save it, I'll just take a look and see if it's working. And you see it moved it over. And if I want to move it over more, I could put 24. And you could use different units other than pixels. You can use M's and things like that, but I'll put that for now. And then also I'm going to change the font. I'm going to say font family. And font family means you could put a couple choices. And I'll try to use things that people have, but I'll also put in things that in case they don't have. So in other words, I'll put Calibri because I like that font, and that's on most computers. And I have to spell it correctly. That's like an office font. I'll put Calibri. I'll put a space, and I'll put Tahoma because I like that font because it has my name in it. And I'll put Arial in case it doesn't get anything else. And then finally I'll put sans-serif. And I'll finish it off with a semicolon. So each declaration finishes off with a semicolon. So I'll save that and just see what happens. Make sure the font changes. And you can see that changed. And that's working well. And if I wanted space after this, I can adjust that, but I'll leave it like that for now. So that's for the table right now. And then I'll make a declaration for right after this one for TD. That's each individual cell. And I'll put curly braces. And then I'll put some declarations for my table cells. And the first one I'll put on there, I'll put a border on there just to see what a border looks like. I'll put border. Now border usually takes 3 specifications. I'll put border, and you could put the thickness, the color, and the style. So I'll put a thickness of 1 pix to start. And you don't put commas with these. So you just put spaces. So I'll put 1 pix, and then I'll put black for the color of the border. And then I'll just put solid. That's by default. Solid is the one you should use. So I'll see what that looks like. I'll save it. And you can see there's a little gap in there. So we're going to have to fix that. There's different ways to fix this. But the one I used last time is I just went into table and I used something called border collapse. And you could put this in here. Border collapse. And then I'll put my colon here, and then I'll just put collapse. So that should collapse any kind of space in between those. So if I save it again and I go here, that should collapse it. So that looks okay, although I might want some padding in here. Padding is inside the cells. So I might want to put some padding in here, and I could put padding in the cell. So that would be here. I'll put padding, and this would be on all sides. And I'll just do something like 4 pix for now. We'll stick with pixels, and it's abbreviated with px. And I'll try that and see what happens. And you can see that puts space inside the cell all around. And that's fine for now. I think that looks okay. And then we can probably color it a little bit. We could even put space above the table here. So if I wanted to do that, table, I could do something. Now I already have margin left here. Now I could do something. You could build it in yourself, but I'll just put a margin top. Now margin is outside and padding is inside. So this would be outside. So I'm going to put margin top, and I'll put 24 pix here too and see how that looks. And as long as the colors look okay, that should put some space in between that connected to world. And that looks fine. So everything looks okay so far. So we're doing okay with our CSS. So we have our table with some things. The only thing that was a little odd is we had to put in this border collapse. There's probably other ways to do it, but the last time I did it, I used border collapse, and that worked fine because we put borders on here. And the next thing I'm going to do is start coloring it. Now these are rows. We're going to color the rows different colors. Now I just want to show you something. If I go here and say TR and I make a style, or declaration I should say, but it's going to be a style, and I'm going to use something called background color, and it's background dash color. So you don't put BG or anything. It's background dash color, and you can put RGB, you can put hex, you could put whatever you want. I'll try hex right now and just see what that looks like. Let's say I wanted it light blue or something like that. Remember, it's RGB, so I'll make sure that I have FF at the end, and then I'll do something like AA. So RG would be a little lower and blue would be higher. So this would be a real light blue if we were using hex. Now I know we haven't talked about hex color, but let me just see what that looks like just to get started here. And you can see everything's kind of in that blue. Now it's even a little darker than I want. Do CC. You make it even lighter. So it'll be a little more pastel. But what I can do here is do something called TR, and they use a colon, and it's called nth child. And you could look this up, and it's called TR nth child. And in parentheses, you can put, like, let's say if I put 3 in here. Let me just put a number 3 in there and see what happens. So I put TR colon nth child, and I'll save it, and I'll run it. I'll just see what happens. And it did the 3rd row. Now I want every other row. So instead of that, what I'm going to do is, instead of 3, I could put in odd, and it should do all the odd children. And you don't have to worry too much about that right now. Let's just see if it works. And I'm just refreshing, and now that looks pretty nice. So it's using all the odd rows in here, and we can make a last row in here eventually. That's the last thing we'll do, but that's working okay. And I don't think we have to do anything else with this. Now, we are going to put a bottom row in here. Now, I'm going to go to W3 Schools. And I'll go to PHP. You might be saying, hey, we're using CSS. Well, I also want to do something here. They have some of this MySQLi functions. So I'm going to go to MySQLi. And they have all these things here. And if you look through here, and I'm telling you this, they have a thing where you're going to actually get the rows. And sometimes I have a hard time finding it, but you're going to get the number of rows in here. So I have to find it.
2 hours later.
Okay, and I can't find the number rows function in here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to search it. I'll just go in here and do the search, and I'll do MySQLi num rows. And there it is. Now for some reason it's not showing up in here. So I'm going to get this function, and this is all I need here. And I want to display the number of rows at the bottom of our table. And all I need in this example here is just this part here. There's 2 lines here. And there's just a comment here, PHP comment, but I'll take that too. But that's all I need right now. And you can see I can print out the row count. So that's what I'm going to use, is the row count is going to represent this number of rows from the result of whatever my query is. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to do it at the end before I close everything. So I'm going to go after here, and I'm going to paste that, and I can move this stuff back a little bit. And after this query here, what I'm going to also do before the closing is I'm going to do another echo. So after I get this result, after I get the row count from the result, I want to print out the row count, but I'm going to add a little text in with it. So I'll just put an echo, and I'll hit enter, and I'm going to make 1 row. So in quotes, I'm going to put TR. I'll try to do this right because I messed it up last time. And again, I started off wrong. Make sure you put your TR tag just like it is up here. And I can even copy this. This might be easier. There's my TR tag. And let me put this at the end before I forget this. So this is going to be at the end. So I'm going to have a TR at the end, closing TR at the end, and a TR here. And then what I'll do is I'll just have a TD. So I can even copy this and put this in here. We're only going to have 1 TD. Now instead of row, we're going to have row count. So let me put row count here. And I'm not getting anything from a table. So let me get rid of this. And what I could put in here, I could put it right in with the quotes, right in with the tag. I'm just going to put displaying the row count results. So I'm just going to put displaying, and then I'll just put a space, and I'll say row count, and then right here I'll put a space and I'll say results, and then a period. And because this is all a string, that can all be in there even with the HTML tag. So I have the HTML tag and it's all as a string, and I have a space. This space here and that space there is on either side of row count. So I still have a dot in there, and remember we need these concatenating dots. So after the tr tag there's a dot, then there's another tag with some text in, then there's a dot, then there's a variable and a dot, and then some more text and a tag and a dot, and then my closing tr tag here. So that's my closing tr, and what it should do, it should print out things on a row. So it should put one cell on that row. So let me see what happens here. I'll save this and I'll go back here and I'll refresh, and there it is. It's saying displaying 28 results down here. And actually that's why it made this whole column wider, because that's in the first column. So we're going to fix that. What we'll do is we'll do what's called a column span. Is we'll make this whole thing, we'll kind of merge cells is actually what a column span is. So I'm going to do a column span, and I could do it right in here. I could go in here and say call span. That's the HTML version of merging cells. And I'm going to merge all 4 cells that are in that table, because there's 4 columns going across. So I'm going to merge 4 columns. So TD call span, and I have to say equals. I can't just say 4. I have to say equals, and I have to put this in a quote. So I'll put it in a single quote like that. Since I'm already inside a double quote, whenever you're in double quotes, use single quotes inside. So I'll say TD call span equals 4. I'll save it and I'll refresh it, and that looks better now because now it's kind of merging. Now all I want to do is align it right, make it bold, and maybe make that color a little different at the bottom. So I could do that with more CSS. Everything's working here. So I'm going to go up here to my CSS, and I'm going to copy this nth child thing, and I'm going to use something called last child. That means the last row, and they don't use a little parentheses with anything in it, so I'll take that out. So it's called last child, and I'll change the background color, and maybe I'll just switch it around. Maybe I'll make it maybe I'll make it green, like a mint green, and I'll make the others CC. So remember that the first 2 are R, G, and B. So if I make the R and the B the same, that way the green in the middle will be a little bit higher. So I'll see how that looks, and I'll save it, and I'll refresh it again, and that looks good. I just want to align it to the right and make it bold. So I just have to put a couple more styles in here. I'm going to use one called text align, and I'll just put right as its property and a semicolon. And then I'm going to do something called font weight, which is the way to make it bold. It's not style, it's weight. I want to put semicolons after these things when they're inside these. So that should make it bold, it should align it to the right, and it should be in a different color. And it's showing the number of results, so I know. So I'll save it, and then refresh, and it's saying displaying 28 results. So if I wanted anything else, it would do the same. So if I did another query in here, if I did region equals North America or anything like that, or if I even limited, I could do that, but I'll leave it at this for now. So you should see 28 results here in the end. If you have any problems with this, there's a lot of things going on here. So if you have any problems with your CSS, with your HTML, with embedding HTML tags into your PHP, anything like that, because any little thing could make it go wrong. You could forget a semicolon, you could forget a tag. I did that a couple times, but if you just look through my stuff right now, and don't forget these little dots too, those things can mess you up as well. So I have these little dots which are separators in between when you have the green and the red. So they separate that, and they also separate separate greens. If they're not all together in one quote, you need a separator. So that's what that little dot is. And you always need the semicolon at the end. So if you have anything going wrong and nothing's displaying, check your semicolons, and that's the end part. So that's what the end looks like. This is what our query and what our output looks like. So this is kind of the middle part of our code that's actually generating the information, and this is the top part of our query, which we only changed this if and else thing a little bit. Everything else should be the same from ex8. And then we had all these styles here. Here's my styles that you can look at these. In the style tag, there we had 4 things: one for table, one for TD, one for tr nth child, which is the odd rows, and for the last row. So take a look at that if you have any problems. And then the top part was just our doc type declaration, which should look just like that: HTML head title, and then inside the title is whatever you want to show up there. That's what's showing up, that text. And then you're closing the head tag, and then you're starting the body tag, and you're starting the table tag, and those 3 tags end down here, closing tags, closing table, closing body, closing HTML, and that's all wrapping up your PHP, which is in the middle. So we're kind of mixing together all kinds of things here. PHP, we have HTML, we have SQL that's in here, and then we have CSS. So we have 4 different languages getting mixed up in this page here. So that's why we're not doing anything else with this. We're just getting it to look okay. So it should look like this at the end. And if you want to mess around with different colors or anything like that, you can. But that's what we want to get right now before we move on to anything else. So that's part 3 of our ex9 PHP table. Again, if you have any problems, just let me know. I can get into your container and take a look at it and see if you have any issues and fix them, or tell you to fix them. When you're done, just put a note in your comment that you're finished with it, and then I'll come and check it out. And if it closes or something, don't worry about it. I'll come and check it out and change your grade. So if there's a due date on it and it passed or something, don't worry about it, because I'm catching up with all these different things with everything going around this spring. So that's the end of EX9 for now, and we'll get ready for EX10 after this.